Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Plaidcast, where we take some of the most unique and interesting and power players of Washington to you in a very plaid setting, back to Wisconsin, to talk about the issues and the people who make this town happen, and sometimes actually not happen. This weekend, I have the great Mia Love from Utah 4. Mia, thanks for coming on with me. That's a handshake right there.
Oh, is that?
That's
oh,
right.
Thank you. You're
She's
welcome.
got a sweaty, cold hand there.
You're welcome. Not
So listen,
sweaty.
so people who don't know Mia, she's of Haitian descent. She's from Utah 4, a former flight attendant, someone who has offered a role on Broadway, probably the only one in the house who's had that offer.
Wow. Yeah, you did your background check.
And now you found your way to Congress. So how does Mia Love get from New York City, where you were born and raised, to Utah, now to Washington, representing Utah 4?
Well, my dad and my mom were born in Haiti, raised in Haiti, and that's where they grew up. And I don't know if you remember this name, but there was a man by the name of Duvalier, which was the president in Haiti. There was Papa Doc, Baby Doc. I don't know if you've heard those names, but they were pretty much dictators. And my dad decided that he didn't want to live there anymore. As a matter of fact, there's a quick story I can share with you. My dad was 14, and he was leaving the theaters with his friends, and he saw a bunch of people running in one direction. And he said at that time in Haiti, when you saw a herd of people running in one direction, you didn't ask questions.
You ran too?
You ran.
Not in the opposite direction, you run with a herd, right?
Today, you'd see people with their cell phones, like trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
But he ran, and he took a glimpse behind him, and he saw a man in a uniform, blue beret, black boots. And that person was way too familiar to everyone there. That person was known as a Tonton Macoute. The Tonton Macoutes were the president's thugs. They pretty much, no law applied to them. They could do whatever they want to. What was really interesting is that a herd of people were running away from one person.
Right.
My dad said that he climbed into a tunnel, like a little water drain, and he said he closed his eyes and stayed there until he thought he was safe.
And he was 14 years old at that time?
He was 14.
A young boy.
Yeah, so you have to understand the reason why people feared the Tonton Macoutes is because they could do whatever they want to.
Right.
They can go into your home, eat your food, rape your children, your wife, and there's nothing you can do about it. Absolutely nothing. The law did not apply to them.
Right.
So he ran because he didn't know what was going to happen or why they were being chased.
But did he come then at 14, or did he come after he met your mom?
So he said he closed his eyes, and he said when he opened his eyes, it was daylight. He had gone into survival mode, that he just kind of hunkered down. And when he walked, he said he walked home, and his mom, he said the look on his mom's face was something he'll never forget. He said because his mom thought he was dead. At the age of 14, if you didn't come home, you weren't coming home. And he said he remembered saying he never wanted to have that look on his face when he had his own family. So as soon as he graduated high school, he married my mom. He knew that he did not want to raise children in Haiti. And it's really interesting because my dad will tell you that he knew exactly where he affiliated party-wise, because to him, less government was always the best answer. He did not want to live in a situation that resembled Haiti.
Right.
So he said, you know, when he worked hard, got his residency, got his citizenship, and his first vote was for Ronald Reagan.
That's great.
I didn't know that until actually I ran for Congress. I heard that later, but he said that one of the best days of his life is when he pledged his allegiance to the American flag. He said he studied American history. He probably knew more about American history than most Americans did at the time.
Most high school grads.
Yeah, he studied the Constitution, and when he pledged his allegiance to the American flag, he knew exactly what he was saying, and he meant every word of it.
Isn't it interesting that people that come from the most repressive regimes, whether you're Cuba or Haiti or now Venezuela or the Eastern Bloc in Europe, under the old Soviet regime, when they come here, they understand freedom. They
appreciate freedom.
They understand the role and size of government and how it can impact your life.
Right.
And they go with a party that wants less government, limited government, and more freedom. Isn't that true?
Yeah, and you know, and I, being born in the United States, being born in New York, I see so many children.
So were you born in New York or
I
born
was
in
born
Haiti?
in New York.
Okay.
Born in New York. My brother and my sister were born in Haiti. I was born in New York, and you know, you would think that those stories would be out of my head, but I would hear those stories all the time. So even growing up, I had an appreciation for and a gratitude for being born in the United States.
So it almost becomes like a part of the fiber of the family, this
Yeah.
liberty and freedom, and the story of probably the story of your father and the lack of freedom that he had growing up.
Yeah, my father, my
becomes
mother,
part of-
it kind of just, it was a fabric that weaved its way through my entire life that I'm seeing actually as an adult. I'm seeing come to fruition as an adult. As a matter of fact, the first day that my dad dropped me off at college, he's really funny.
Is his father still alive?
Oh, yes. And he's very humorous and we get along really well. He makes me so happy.
How great is it to come from that and now have his daughter serve in the U.S. Congress? That's got to be pretty awesome.
To them, only in America, right?
America.
Only in America. You know, he dropped me off at college and he said, your mom and I have done everything we could to get you here. You will not be a burden to society, Mia. You're going to give back. And what he was talking about that, in terms of giving back, he was talking about the preservation of freedom. Yeah. He was talking about the sacrifices they made for me to do something and be something, and that the world doesn't revolve around me, and that we all have gifts and talents that we have to use for the betterment of society. And you know, I'm grateful to both of my parents for what they instilled in me, and what I believe is the epitome of the American dream.
Can I say what I've actually heard you say that before, but not to me. I never told you this. Me and I are friends. We serve on financial services together. But when Mia, I don't know if this was in your first race when you lost by 800 votes, or if it was in the second race.
768. Who's counting?
To be exact, right? or the second time you ran, but you did a video where you talked about the message of not being a burden to society.
Yeah.
And you talked about what your dad told you to do and how to live your life. And it was I'm Mia running for Congress. And it was about you running as well, along with your philosophy. Was that the first race or the second race?
That was the first race.
Which is, if no one has seen it, it's one of the greatest produced videos and one of the greatest stories of why someone is running. You had your family, you had you running, and you had your great history and the lessons taught by your father. It was a really great video. You should put that back up again.
What's interesting about that whole thing is that the video group came in to do the production, and we were supposed to go for a run, and that day was a major snowstorm.
And they were like,
they were just like, well, we can't do it. What are we going to do? I was like, this is Utah. We run in the snow. We run in all sorts of weather. I mean, gosh, I said, you know, we ran Wasatch back where it's like 198 miles. You run it with a team. I was just like, snow is nothing. So we put on our gear, and I was just like, you guys just keep up.
So you're running in Utah outside, and it's snowing, and then you're like inside doing your workout class. Running up hills on the incline. It was very cool. So what made you decide to get into politics and run?
Oh gosh, politics is certainly something that I never said I wanted to do when I grew up. You know, when you're a kid, you don't sit there and say, yeah, at least I didn't anyway, I'm going to be a politician or I'm going to run for this. It was that little voice in the back of my head. I was on the city council for Saratoga Springs because my neighbors got me into it and said, you know what, there's a need here. Go and represent us. Oh gosh, that's a long story. But it comes from trying to solve problems, and then when you're the one that's going in solving problems, they're like, great, you did that, now go do this.
So weren't there like flies in the neighborhood, and you
had
to
how
organize
did you know this?
people to
that's
go
exactly what happened.
So what I wanted to tell you was you were like one of the first community organizers that ran for Congress as you're trying to take out flies in your neighborhood, and now
that's
you're
what we do as women. I'm sure your wife is like, you know, this is what we do. There's a problem that has to be solved, and as a parent, you sit there and you say, okay, I'll give me the ball. I'll take care of it.
I got to solve the problem.
Yeah, we had it was actually a lake fly issue, and the developer didn't want to take care of it or was giving us a hard time. So anyway, I got
so you started off with lake. You started off with lake flies, and now you're dealing with swamp flies right now, right? You've made the transition, but still dealing with flies. So okay, you are a Haitian woman and a Republican, right? So there's not a whole lot of African American or Black American women in the Republican Party in Congress. How many are there actually?
See, you're putting me in a box. I'm all of it.
No, I know you, but
I'm American. I'm a mom.
I know,
I'm a wife,
but I'm going somewhere else with this. So let me. You're the only
I'm
one,
going
right?
You.
Just work with me.
That's it.
Walk down the path.
It's the Bigfoot of Congress,
right? So
or the unicorn, whatever you want to call it.
What I find interesting is that the other party, Democrats, will say, we're a party of diversity. We want to encourage and incentivize more women to be involved in politics. Yeah. We're a party that want more minority representation in Congress, right? And so being a minority and a woman, do the Democrats, does Nancy Pelosi and others support you in your
Of course not.
Why not?
Of course not.
I'm
because
shocked, Mia.
it's
Why is that?
okay for you to look a certain way, but if you don't think the same way that she does, then it's not, then that's not the kind of diversity she wants.
So it's a unique point. So you have a race right now, and
Yes.
because they care about diversity, who's running against you?
So you wait for it.
Okay, wait.
Wait for it.
Tell
They
me.
went and recruited a white male Democrat outside of the district to take me out,
To take you out.
right?
What
That'll
happened-
help with the diversity
Whatever
issue.
happened to practicing what we preach?
Right.
I thought that the Democrats would be so supportive of you and your efforts, but I guess not. But we are.
Well, certainly not the DCCC because, I think that it's a narrative that they don't like. I've realized that it's something that they'll do everything they can to fight against. And I think it's because it scares them. And for Nancy, it's a voting block. She's more concerned about winning elections than she is winning on the policies that actually help Americans.
That's right.
You have to understand that when people are independent, when they are able to make up their own minds, they don't need her.
That's right.
She needs people to need her because that's what keeps people in power. And for people like you and I, the less powerful we are in Washington, the better we've done.
Well, the more powerful our citizens are.
That's right. And it's all about taking it, decentralizing it, taking it away from Washington and putting it in the hands of our parents, our community, our children, our families, our cities.
Speaking of children, so our kids know each other. So
Yes.
you have 3 kids. I have 8. We both know these jobs can be a little bit challenging. Just on the time front, you take a lot of time
Yeah.
away from your family. So how do you do it? How do you manage your time as a mom, and how do you manage your career and make all of that happen with having to spend so much time out here?
Well, there are pluses and minuses to everything, but I think that I'm an example to my children. At the very least, I've taught my children that the world doesn't revolve around them. And if they can see mom actually going out and doing something, then they know that they're supposed to use their talents and their gifts for the betterment of their family and for the betterment of society also.
The same way
it's
you
the
have.
same thing that my father taught me, right? It's the same thing. The world doesn't revolve around you. You're not going to be a burden to society. You're going to give back. And I'm trying to do the same thing with my children.
But what's unique is you see that you, at every opportunity, bring Jason, your husband,
Yes.
and your kids in and try to make them part of what's happening in D.C., which is probably one of the only ways to be successful, and I think you do that really well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, what's going on right now in Washington. So the big conversation is taxes, right?
Yeah, tax reform.
We saw a failure of the repeal and replace of Obamacare. By the way, not failure in the House, failure in the Senate. Let's be
Let's
clear
just get
on
it
this.
right, get it straight.
We're not taking the blame for that one. But what do you think? Are we going to get tax reform done? Do you think
I think
we
we
can
have
get
to. We
Why?
certainly have to. Because so for way too long, the United States has just extracted way too much money from the American people. I don't know how many people you've talked to in your district, but I can tell you in my district, people aren't able to save any longer. People don't have those savings. They find it very difficult for them to be able to do the things that, my parents were able to do back into the 70s. How many, we're on financial services together. Even the policies that are created today, small banks are closing by at an average of 1 per day. Somebody gave me a statistic the other day and said that we had about 3,856 banking institutions back in 1891, and our population was 63 million. Today our population is 350 somewhat million.
Yeah.
We have the same amount of banks today that we did back then.
To the point that our
Dodd-Frank, and you think about what's happened, they've closed their doors or they've consolidated, right?
So
And
big banks get bigger and small
Right.
banks go away. And the problem for communities like ours is it's these small banks that
Give
serve the
access to
very
credit,
small
yeah.
communities and
That's
know
right.
the communities and are invested in the community. And when you lose that and you're having someone make decisions that live 250 miles away from you,
Right.
It's a real problem for people
So
to live the American dream.
It
You're absolutely
all
right.
comes together. You think about my dad and the way that he was able to raise us. He had 3 jobs. Those 3 jobs were given to him by people who had small businesses that were
Right.
able to open businesses. In order for them to do that, they had to be able to go to their banking institutions to get some sort of small line of credit. And then when they did, they had to go in and pay taxes. Now it's literally impossible. You've got S corps that are paying upwards 44% in taxes. You've got the highest federal corporate tax in the industrialized nation coming. I mean, it makes it so that we're not competitive.
Doesn't it make sense that we want to let people keep more of their money? So we're not saying we don't want any taxes, but if I can let you keep more of your money, you spend it better than you and I. The families spend their money better than you and I can spend their money. And so the more we can let you keep, the more effective you will be with that dollar, which means you can grow the economy and create more opportunity for more people. And the left has this idea that government knows best how to spend our money. And I can tell you, and I know you can as well firsthand, that the government is the most ineffective way and inefficient way to spend a dollar.
Right.
You'll spend your money far better.
Okay, so this is the best way that I've been able to explain.
Give it to me.
I call it the category of spending, right? Category 1, which is the best one, is you spend your money on yourself, which means, listen to this. So you go to the store, you're buying something, you're going to worry about how much you're paying, and you're going to worry about the quality.
Right.
Category 2 is you spending your money on somebody else. So now you're going to maybe not worry so much about the quality and maybe spend a little bit less. Who knows, right? Category 3 is you spending somebody else's money on yourself. Now you don't really care about the cost.
Price doesn't matter.
Right?
Right.
And you're going to go for like the best, you're spending it on yourself, right? Category 4, which is the worst kind of spending, which is what government does, is spending somebody else's money on somebody else.
Right.
Quality doesn't matter. The amount of money doesn't matter. You're too far removed from it. And that is the problem. It's category 4 spending, and it's what they do in Washington. It's the least efficient way of doing it.
I haven't heard that yet, Mia, but that is a great way
and you will
to
use
present,
it.
and I will use that again. I'm going to steal that from you. So let's, as we're running down on time, give me, what is Mia's axe to grind? What bugs you about this town? What bugs you about how things operate? What is the Mia axe to grind as we're dealing with a Plaidcast right now? So you got to give me axe to grind.
Well, it used to be when I first came in, I still believe this is true. The thing that threatens the sovereignty of this country is the amount of spending and the debt that we are in. But there has been another element that has been added to that, which I've increasingly become concerned about, and that is we've forgotten that we're all in the same boat. We've forgotten that we're Americans. People have gotten so uncivil and mean. We used to be able to disagree on specific things and have a discussion and be able to come to the table, because I think that America is at its best when two people are coming to the table and talking about what they're for. But people have gotten really angry, and we've forgotten that there are enemies outside that want to hurt us and that want to see us divided, and we cannot allow that to happen. And I believe that this country is more divided today based on race, income level, social status. We're more divided today than we've been in a long time, and it's about making. I think it's more about victimizing people instead of empowering people. And we need to do a better job making sure that we're empowering Americans, making them, I feel very comfortable in my skin and in my thoughts and in my beliefs. And I honestly believe people have died for me to be able to have my own thoughts and to be able to have my own convictions and be able to think for myself. So no matter what Nancy Pelosi does, and as much as she wants to get rid of me, she's stuck with me. Because
I hope so. Make sure that.
Because
but isn't it fair to say? Because I look at there's a great political divide. People don't agree on the politics of the day at all, and they're in one camp or the other. There's not that many in the middle. But I think it's our job to actually lead the country and recognize that Maxine Waters is the ranking member on our committee. I think Maxine is nice. She's a mom. She's a grandma. She's a wife, and you have to be able to remove the political disagreement from the person. And I think what we do, if we have people that we disagree with, we take it to the person themselves and demonize them. And when you do that, you get people taking up guns, like what happened to Steve Scalise, or sticks, and they beat and go to war with each other instead of, we got to be able to humanize each other.
They really need to see us treat each other better.
With respect. I agree.
With respect.
And I try in my town halls to say, listen, I fundamentally disagree with where they're going, but most people here are nice, good people. Now, there's a few jerks, but there are a lot of nice people.
Yeah.
And we have to lead the country, because the media's not going to do it. I think it's our job to lead them to say, let's have a political disagreement and argument, but let's not make any mistake that we're going to demonize people and dehumanize people, which is, I think, is important. All right, what's your favorite? I'm a Wisconsin guy, as you know. What's your favorite cheese?
Oh gosh, you're gonna hate me for this, but it's kind of brie. I love brie, especially for Christmas. To have some like brie with some marmalade on it, dip it with crackers. It's great.
So you like my wife? She likes brie, but I'm like, doesn't taste.
Well, you should listen to your wife because she is pretty spectacular.
Doesn't taste very good. So give me a cheesy, funny story where you've embarrassed yourself in DC.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh,
okay. I do have a story. So I run in the mornings with John Ratcliffe.
Can he keep up with you?
Well, we're actually pretty. He's a good running partner, and
How far do you run?
I figured if he's just a little slower than I am, then if anything happens, I just have to beat him, and I'm perfectly fine.
Do you run
with that.
3, 5, 10 miles? How much?
Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 6, depending on when we have to be ready in the morning for whether it's conference or something that we have to do. But I remember there was a time where he's there. My husband obviously appreciates him running with me because my husband in his mind is thinking, okay, I've got someone at least looking out for my wife, right? So we're running and we're looking, we stop because there's traffic coming, and then there's obviously, John looks and he says, okay, let's go. And it takes me a minute for my brain to catch up and say, okay, let's go. So I'm running and I see cars coming. And so I don't see the pothole in front of me. And I go out. John's already across the street.
Sale.
A car zooms by me and he's across the street yelling, are you okay? Like, should I come and get you?
I'm going to stay here. Get up and
so
run.
John Ratcliffe shouldn't be in leadership of any kind anywhere.
He left you in the pothole.
In the street, and a car zooms by me. I know.
We'll have to give him a hard time. That's actually funny.
Give him a hard time.
Let me ask you this quickly. I'm going to have to go in a second, but Paul Bunyan is larger than life. In your life, who is larger than life to me in love? Who's inspired you?
Oh gosh, there are several names that I could use, but you know what? I'm going to go with my husband, and let me tell you why. To me, he's the unsung hero. If you think about your wife too, my husband's the unsung hero. He is the one that is always in the background supporting, the best father, the best husband. It's not easy to send your wife out there, to be right out there, to be ridiculed, to do whatever. And he is just a faithful, God-fearing, God-loving, great father and husband, and a great example to my children.
That's awesome, and keeps your family together, and a great guy as well.
My best friend in the whole world.
Yeah, that's awesome. So listen, Mia, thanks for joining us on Plaidcast. If people want to find Mia Love, I've got it behind you. What are you at? Where are you at? Twitter, Facebook? Do you know?
Oh gosh, Love for Utah.
Love for Utah.
Love for Utah.
I like it.
Yes, that's Love, LOVE 4 Utah.
I like it.
And we, go check us out.
Come check me out. Listen, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your story, and thanks for being such a great member of Congress and such a wonderful fighter for freedom. I appreciate that. And for those of you who have joined us for another week of Plaidcast, thank you. Where we're bringing the best of Washington, D.C. home to you in Wisconsin and around America this weekend. Mia Love, thanks so much. High five, girl.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.